Okay, it's good to see everyone after a bye week. Great to get back to game week preparation. Just one announcement before we get started on the University of Georgia and the great challenge that lies ahead of this football team is today we've dismissed Trayvon Polk from our football program based on a personal conduct issue. As you all are aware, we hold our players to a very high standard and expectation with being a member of our football family, and so moving forward, that's what will occur. I will not answer any more questions regarding this situation. And now we're on to the great challenge of going on the road in Sanford Stadium. And our young football team's going to find out what life is in the SEC with the grind that we're about ready to embark on. I think there's no secret when you think of the University of Georgia, you think of their stable of running backs, and it is a stable. And very, very talented, very physical. Gurley, Michelle, Chubb, Marshall, they all bring a different element to their backfield, a very, very physical and imposing offensive line. Hudson Mason, very familiar with him. We went through the recruiting process with him when we were at Cincinnati, and he's managing the game exceptionally well and playing winning football for them at the quarterback position. When you look at their stable of running backs, the first thing that sticks out at you are the yards after contact. It's really incredible. And so obviously, make no mistake about it, we have to be a great tackling football team. They're a team that doesn't beat themselves, and very talented at the receiver position as well. So there's a reason why, some people picked them to win the SEC East this year. And then when you look at them defensively, it all starts with Wilson, the linebacker, extremely active, will be one of the best linebackers we face all year. They have an inordinate amount of depth on their defensive front and even on their entire defense. They have different starting lineups, which I think is a byproduct of them trying to create that competitive nature, which we talk about, that we're trying to develop here. And whoever probably has the best week of practice plays for them and starts. And so they play a number of guys in the back end, up front, very, very explosive. It starts with Jenkins. Thing I've been extremely impressed with their defense is their turnover conscience. Ball disruptions, they do a great job of creating turnovers and playing with a hard edge. So again, it's going to be a great challenge for this football team going on the road in a hostile environment, noon game versus a great, great opponent. But as we all know, that's life in the SEC. So I'll answer any questions you may have at this time.
Coach, did you make any changes on special teams for this game?
Well, going into the Oklahoma game, probably the monumental change that really, really changed the dynamic of our kickoff team was Evan Berry. And Evan Berry was the first one down the field. He was disruptive, so you could really feel his presence, and that's a great illustration where he earned that starting position because of what he did on scout teams and what he did with the second team. And he influenced the game. He impacted the game. And that's everything we talk about as a player, is when you get that opportunity to perform, how will you impact the game? So he made impactful games. Everything else is pretty much the same in terms of special teams.
Butch, not specific to this incident, but big picture, how do you handle netting out judgment in terms of trying to work with a player and keep him in the program versus having to dismiss someone?
Well, every circumstance is different, and I'm a father figure, and unfortunately some incidents are out of my control, and some incidents you try to teach. We do a tremendous job in the overall growth and development of every individual in our football program with our Vol for Life program, our personal development and growth program. We spend an inordinate amount of time, as you all are very aware of, with outside speakers, using real life illustrations and constantly having dialogue and talking about it. And, we always talk about the 1 second rule, and it's split second decisions, but, you try to educate them and move on just like they're your own kids.
Which we saw Darrell Scott practice last week. Do you see him getting some snaps this week, or is that still down the line?
It's still ongoing. it's very good to have him back on the football field, and he brings another element in our backfield and also competition. Not quite game ready yet, but we'll make a determination on his status, if he'll be on the travel squad or not going on the road. And now, when you go on the road in the SEC, you have travel restrictions, so a lot of it is special teams value as well.
You guys have an update on Josh Smith, where he's at?
Ongoing. We'll know a little bit more later in the week of his status for the Georgia game. Von Pearson will be out. Daniel Helm back, practiced yesterday, looked great, so we'll have him back for the game. Ethan Wolf is back full speed, so it's been great to have the tight ends back in our offense.
How comfortable, if you don't have both Smith and Pearson, how comfortable are you with the receiving core you've got? Are there anybody who's kind of stepped up in their absence in the last week in practice?
Well, Josh Malone will be an individual who, has gained valuable repetitions, but his role will continue to expand, and very rightfully so. He's worked exceptionally hard. He's starting to understand the small details of what it takes to play championship football at the receiver position, the work ethic, the practice habits. Thought he had a very, very good work week last week, so he's an individual. We'll move Alton Howard around from outside to the slot, which is like riding a bike to him. And so I'm excited. We have capable players, and it's going to come down again. Football is a game of one-on-one matchups, whether it's up front or whether it's out on the perimeter. And so, again, we're going to have some one-on-one matchups Saturday, but, Josh Smith and Von Pearson are very, very good football players, but it's all about working to create depth through recruiting, and it's just another opportunity for another individual. And like I said, we'll know more about Josh as the week continues to progress.
What kind of longer-term impact do you think that game against Georgia last year had for your program, if any at all?
Well, it's a new season. It's a new football team. Half of our football team didn't even participate in that game now. Probably a third of the newcomers were actually at that game on a recruiting visit. But again, they didn't perform in it. But I think it adds confidence for everyone. But just like Georgia, they're a new football team. And now, you're not playing in Neyland Stadium. You're playing in Sanford Stadium. You have to go on the road, just like we did at Oklahoma. You have to be able to block out the clutter, the distractions, the crowd noise. So I think it's a whole different dynamic just because the team is half new. They didn't go through it.
What happened to the tackling at Oklahoma, and how much has that been addressed to the week since?
Well, again, I think sometimes the quality of opponent dictates that as well. And so, again, we work that every single day, every individual drill. We work on tackling. We need to start generating more hits on the quarterback, more of a pass rush, and more ball disruptions. That's the thing that I want to see improvement defensively is, it's like you can't get to the quarterback, so you mirror the offhand, you get your hand in the throwing lane. Georgia does a very good job of that. It's getting population to the ball. See, there's a new one for you, John. So you get population to the ball where we're running to the football, and that's when good things happen. That's when you can create turnovers. So, again, there's a lot of things that we need to do to take the next step defensively, not just tackling, but the small details. You look at the SEC, the margin of winning is very, very small. And everyone talks about inches. It really is an inches game. And you're searching for those inches. It may be a defensive lineman, and his offhand stab is 6 inches too wide. That's the difference between winning and losing that rep. It's 6 inches of the offensive lineman getting their hands inside. It may be a yard in terms of the receiver running the proper depth. That's what makes this conference so relentless, so unyielding, so challenging is, you see it, is inches really do make the difference in everything that you do.
Go ahead, John.
You mentioned the defense, but the run defense, it seems like that's becoming almost a team strength. I saw that Oklahoma freshman rush for over 230 yards on West Virginia. And you guys did a pretty good job against them.
Well, it has been a strength of ours. But now we'll really find out heading into the Georgia game, obviously, with their stable of backs and their mentality that they want to, play football, their style of play. And they also do a great job in terms of their personnel groupings with their big packages and the different personnels. So again, it'll be a great challenge and for us moving forward. Our safeties have to do a great job, but again, this is a game that challenges your overall discipline because they do a very good job in terms of their play action pass game. And again, it gets back to the eye discipline, just doing your job and following the fundamentals and follow the job description of every call.
Did you get a sense among the offensive linemen when they returned to the practice field yesterday that there was a little better, cohesion and comfort level with one another? And how much did last Saturday night through last week maybe jump-start that unit's development as five together?
Well, I've felt that cohesiveness occurring all the way throughout training camp and the next individual in. And even though you have a starting five, your depth is critical. And the teams that consistently win in this football conference have tremendous depth. Whether it's in the offensive front, whether it's in the defensive front, it's really program depth more so than anything. And that's a luxury we don't have right now, but we'll get there. We'll get there through recruiting and we'll get there through development. But, you look at Georgia, they have four great running backs, really five. The other individual who played against us last year that I didn't even mention. So again, they have a full stable. And they do a great job of playing to the strengths, of those running backs and even their wide receivers. But again, our offensive line has done a great job every day with a workmanlike approach and in having that mentality of just getting better no matter who's in there.
Talked about Josh Malone. What's the biggest difference you see in him now versus maybe when he first got here in training camp?
Practice habits, work capacity, the volume of repetitions, the mental toughness, all of that. And that's a byproduct of enrolling early, and it's a tribute to him, but also it's Zach Azzani. I continually say it, and I mean it. I'm a wide receiver coach by nature, and he has a knack for developing receivers. And Josh holds on every word that he says. And he's working exceptionally hard now, and he's really worked his practice habits. And, you have to be able to take the practice field to the game field, and he's been able to do that. And he's played consistently. Every time he's gone in there, he's caught the football, he's advanced the football, he's blocked, he's done everything that we've asked of him. He's been a quiet, consistent performer for us.
Coach Jones, you talked about recruiting and depth. Could you tell us what is going on with Ryan Jenkins, where he's at on depth chart, and also Austin Sanders, two highly talented players?
Ryan continues to develop. Again, it's just a level of consistency day in and day out with the mental part of it in terms of understanding the schemes. There isn't anyone who works any harder on our football program than Ryan Jenkins, and he'll continue to develop because it's important to him, and he's very high character. And so it's, again, just an overall of consistency and performance each and every day. The same thing with Austin Sanders. Austin is playing in the offensive front. That's a developmental position. And we still forget he's a redshirt freshman. And after this year, he still has 3 years left. And again, he's working exceptionally hard. It's just the overall level of consistency each and every day that's associated with getting on the football field for us. And Ryan will be an individual that we're going to rely heavily on special teams as well. And he's earned that role. He's earned that right. We'll see how he performs Saturday afternoon.
You mentioned needing to be more disruptive on defense. Just how set up are you to be able to do that without getting fancy or taking risks with guys like Derek, with Kirk being healthy compared to last year?
Well, it's overall effort to the football, and it's creating habits, and it's creating instincts. You're training so it becomes instinctful, like ball disruptions. Secure the tackle, work what we call the lawnmower. Those are all practice habits. Those are things that need to be developed each and every day, which we do. We have a period in practice for that, but I'm not quite seeing the fruits of our labor. I'm not seeing the investment in time really manufacture itself on game day. And that's what we need to see, is we need to see the inordinate amount of time we talk about that we practice ball disruptions. We have to do a much better job of that. And a lot of times that's getting 9, 10, 11 hats to the football and playing with a high level of physicality. So when I talk about ball disruptions, tip footballs, You look at a lot of interceptions, they're generated off of tipped footballs. And you may not even tip the football, but what you do is you impede the vision of the quarterback and he has to reset more in the pocket. So there's so much that goes into it. We have to practice it and we have to live it on each and every snap. It has to be in our DNA. It has to be in our DNA of our defense.
But do you think some teams become so conscious of taking the ball away and tugging at it that it impacts their tackling?
Absolutely. Yes, that was a topic of conversation that we had in our coaches' meetings prior to the start of the season. You're exactly right. As I thought last year, we became so conscientious of trying to strip the football that we never secured the tackle. And there is a process that goes through. You always, the first man secures the tackle. So there's a technique involved. But to answer your question, yes, there is. That can play a role in it.
Butch, what's your view on quarterbacks parachuting into programs? These fourth or fifth year guys.
What's your definition of parachuting?
They leave a program because they weren't the starter, they've graduated, they want to go, they start hunting for greener
Right.
grass.
Well, I think every situation is different in and of itself. Every individual has a different circumstance regarding their decision to do that. I think they feel it's an opportunity to perform and get on the football field. We haven't really had any experience in that to date since we've been here, so I really can't comment on that because, again, I don't want to comment on not knowing each individual's particular situation that it presents. And it's not just quarterbacks, that happens around the country in terms of different position groups. It's probably more heightened awareness just because it is at the quarterback position.
How would it affect chemistry, do you think? For you, how would you deal with
Well, I think you have different examples. Russell Wilson, I thought it affected Wisconsin's chemistry tremendous, and I know Brett, when I speak to him, he talks about it. So I think it really affected that football team in a positive light. I think, again, it's all based on the individual. I think it's based on the competitive character of the individual and the overall character of the individual. Any program you go into, you have to earn the respect of your peers. That's first and foremost, especially at the quarterback position. So I think you look around, there's probably great illustrations where it's been positive, and there's probably some illustrations that it's been negative as well.
Seems scoring's up across the board in the SEC this year. Why do you think that's the case? And do you think that's going to be the case the rest of the season, or do you think things will level out when we get deeper into conference play?
I think there's a number of things. First of all, we have some very, very explosive football players in this conference. This conference is made up of veteran offensive lines, so they're able to control the line of scrimmage. I also think some has to do with schematics, is creating one-on-one matchups, creating space. Even though Arkansas runs the football, they still create space in their own way. So again, I think it's a number of things. I think it's creating space, creating one-on-one matchups. I think you see the flavor of college football around the country is bubble screens, quick smoke screens, getting the ball in the hands of your playmakers and letting them make plays. But also, again, even though we have some quarterbacks that maybe don't have the game experience that we've had in the past, they're very good football players. So I think it's a combination of a lot of factors.
But you have a really high winning percentage coming off of a bye week. What do you do during the bye week, or why do you think you have that?
Well, I think it's a combination. It's in a bye week, every team is different, and you try to make your bye week schedule relative to the team that you have and what that particular team needs at that particular moment of time. For us, is getting back some health issues, getting healthy, but also just overall fundamental improvement. And just we really focus on the small details. You brought up tackling, going back to the basics. A lot of times, when you're limited time-wise, a lot of time is spent, preparing for your opponent, lining up, preparing for their schemes. Where in a bye week, you can go back and revisit and really work on yourself, work on the fine details of winning football. So I think it's a combination of that, and I think our coaches have done a great job of really going back to the fundamentals. It's also time to go back and reevaluate all your schemes, quality control yourself, quality control your personnel, and and also give other individuals opportunities as well. So I think it's a combination of a lot of things.
But so far, you guys have primarily relied on about, I think, 6 defensive linemen. How close are you to getting some other guys like Mixon and Hendricks and Lewis, maybe Jalen Miller?
They continue to be work in progress, and we're going to need them as we venture into SEC play now. So again, the bye week was critical to get them valuable reps, get them live reps, but we're going to need them to step up because you can't play that amount of offensive linemen in the SEC. We're going to need depth, and we're going to need to play more people. And they're working exceptionally hard to put themselves in that position, but we're going to demand and expect more of them because we need those reps.
George is relying on a lot of youth in the secondary. They're starting one true freshman, one redshirt freshman. Just on what catches your attention about their secondary from what you know?
Very skilled, very long, great length, speed, quickness, athleticism. They have it all. But when you look at them, they all kind of look the same. They have great length, and they have great range.
Anything else, guys?
All right. Thank you.